Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we were taking a look at Hibernate-Mapping in Java.
Oh, yeah.
We got some really great material on this.
Yeah.
It's all about Hibernate-Mapping and relationships and associations.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know about you, but when I was looking over this stuff,
Yeah.
I was getting kind of fired up about all the cool things you can do with it.
Yeah, it's funny. Hibernate can be a little intimidating when you first start looking at it.
Right.
But once you understand these core concepts, it's so powerful,
Yeah, for sure.
for managing data in your applications.
And that's what we're here for.
That's it.
We are here to break down these concepts into bite-sized pieces, so
Absolutely.
that when you go out there and you start building your applications, you can tackle even the most complex data relationships.
Yeah.
So before we get lost in the weeds here, let's take a step back.
Okay.
Why do we even need something like Hibernate?
Well, think about how you structure data in your Java application. You use objects, classes, instances, all that good stuff.
Yeah, inheritance.
Inheritance, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very neatly organized.
Yeah.
Everything's interconnected, right?
Right.
But then we go to store that data.
Right.
Often we're turning to a relational database,
Yeah.
which is a completely different structure.
Right.
Tables and columns and rows.
Like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that is where Hibernate comes in.
Okay.
It acts as that bridge,
Right.
that object relational mapping tool, or ORM.
Got it.
It translates between the world of objects and the world of relational databases.
Okay, so Hibernate helps our code and our database play nicely together.
Yes.
But, don't we already kind of have a way to do that with, like, foreign keys and stuff in our database?
Well, yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
But think about, the complexity of managing those relationships purely through foreign keys,
Right, yeah,
especially as your application grows.
right.
You're going to be writing so much code, boilerplate code, just to handle data retrieval and updates and deletion.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be very, very prone to errors.
Yeah,
And Hibernate simplifies all of that
okay.
by letting you define the relationships directly in your code using annotations.
Ah, annotations, okay.
Yeah.
So annotations are kind of all over the place in Java.
They are, yeah.
But what are they doing in this context?
Imagine them as metadata,
Okay.
instructions for Hibernate.
Right.
So you can define the type of relationship between two entities, right?
Right.
So you go one-to-one,
Yep.
one-to-many, many-to-one, many-to-many.
Gotcha.
And you do all that through these simple annotations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm starting to see the power here.
Yeah.
But can you give me, like, a real-world example, something that, we can all relate to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's take the classic example of a school database.
Okay.
Right? So you've got teachers and you've got departments. Each teacher belongs to one department.
Makes sense.
But a department can have multiple teachers.
Right, yeah.
So this is a classic one-to-many relationship.
One-to-many, yeah.
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 And if we were just using foreign keys, right, we'd have to manually manage that link between the teacher table and the department table.
Yeah, that sounds messy.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but with Hibernate, we can define that relationship right in our Java code
Okay.
using the @many-tune and @one-to-many annotations.
Okay.
So we just add these annotations right above the relevant fields in our teacher and department classes.
Okay.
And then Hibernate takes care of the rest.
Gotcha. So Hibernate sees these annotations, and then it knows how to structure the database tables and how to handle all that data.
That's exactly it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Okay.
And this is where things get even more interesting.
All right.
So imagine you want to retrieve a teacher's information,
Okay.
including the department that they belong to. With Hibernate, you don't need to write complex SQL queries to join multiple tables. Okay. You simply fetch the teacher object, and Hibernate will automatically load the associated department object.
It's like magic.
It is, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So it just does it for you. That sounds super efficient.
Very efficient.
It's like doing all the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
Right.
So we can just focus on what our application's supposed to be doing.
That's exactly right, yeah.
But what about those other relationship types that you mentioned?
Right.
Like the one-to-one, many-to-many.
Well, let's think about a teacher's login credentials.
Okay.
Each teacher should only have one set of credentials.
Right.
So that's a one-to-one
Not
relationship.
going to one.
And we can represent that using the @one-tune annotation.
Okay. One teacher, one set of credentials. Perfect.
Yeah.
But what about those many-to-many?
Yeah.
Like, that just sounds like it could get kind of messy.
They can, yeah.
Yeah.
But Hibernate has a really clever solution for that.
Uh-huh.
Join tables.
Join tables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So remember, are teachers in departments.
Yeah.
Now, let's say the teachers can teach multiple courses,
Okay.
and each course can have multiple teachers.
Gotcha.
So trying to directly link teachers and courses would create a lot of redundancy and complexity.
Yeah, I can see how that could get out of hand.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where the join tables come in.
Okay.
They act as this intermediary.
Okay.
Right. So it's a separate table that stores the links between the teachers and the courses.
Okay. So instead of trying to force this direct connection between teachers and courses, we have this like separate table that maps it all out.
You got it. Yeah.
Okay.
And Hibernate makes working with these join tables incredibly easy.
Really?
Yeah. You can define the relationships using the @many-to-many annotation.
Okay.
And then Hibernate takes care of creating and managing that join table for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've got these annotations telling Hibernate how to structure these relationships.
And then behind the scenes, it's setting up these join tables and everything. It sounds incredibly powerful.
It is.
But it also sounds like there's a lot of room for things to go wrong if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's true. That's a valid concern. Yeah.
Yeah.
One area where things can get a little tricky is when you start deleting entities.
Oh, okay.
So let's say, a teacher leaves the school.
Right.
What happens to their associated courses?
Yeah.
Do those courses just disappear from the database?
I would hope not. Yeah, because what if there were other teachers teaching those courses? Or what if there are students enrolled? Like, we can't just wipe out all that data.
Exactly.
Just because one teacher leaves.
That's right. And that's where cascading comes in.
Okay.
So cascading allows you to specify how changes to one entity should affect related entities.
I see.
So in our, teacher course example, we might want to configure cascading so that when a teacher is deleted, the courses that they teach remain intact. Okay, so it's kind of like a safety net.
Yeah.
So you don't accidentally delete a bunch of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, it prevents accidental data loss.
I like it.
So there are different types of cascading behavior you can define, like all, persist, merge, remove,
Okay.
each with its own specific effects.
Gotcha.
So you can really fine-tune how changes propagate through your relationships,
Okay.
ensuring data integrity.
So it seems like cascading adds like a whole other layer of like complexity to this whole thing.
It does, yeah.
Is it something that you typically set up for every relationship, or are there times when it's like, nah, we don't really need to worry about it for this one?
It really depends on the specific needs of your application.
Okay.
Sometimes you want those changes to cascade,
Right.
like when you're deleting an order,
Okay.
and all of its associated order items should also be deleted.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But other times, you want to keep things separate. Like when you're deleting a user, but you want to preserve their comments on a forum or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it's really about understanding the consequences of your actions, right?
Right.
You have to think about the ripple effect
Yeah. Yeah.
of these changes within your data model.
For sure. It's like that butterfly effect, right?
Okay. Exactly.
One little change can make all the difference.
That's right.
Okay. So let's shift gears for a second.
Okay.
We've been talking about these relationships from one side, like, a teacher belonging to a department.
Mm-hmm.
But what if we want to represent that relationship from the other direction?
Okay.
Like the department knowing about all the teachers that it contains.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So we've been focusing on what are called unidirectional relationships,
Okay.
where the connection flows in one direction.
Gotcha.
But Hibernate also supports bidirectional relationships,
Okay.
where both entities are aware of the connection.
So like the teacher knows its department and the department knows all its teachers.
Precisely.
Okay.
Yeah, so bidirectional relationships are very powerful because they allow you to navigate that relationship from either side.
Right. Yeah.
So, you can easily go from a teacher to their department or from a department to all of its teachers.
But I bet those are a little more complex to set up though, right?
They are a bit more complex, yeah. It involves using what's called a mapped by attribute in your annotations.
Okay.
To specify which side of the relationship is the owner, so to speak.
Gotcha.
It's a little nuanced, but mastering this concept can really elevate your Hibernate skills.
And we'll be sure to include some resources in the show notes that, really dig deep into this because it sounds like a whole other can of worms that we're not going to get into today.
Right.
But it's definitely worth exploring.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more important aspect of Hibernate mapping, and that is performance. So we're defining all these relationships, these join tables, this cascading behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Does all this impact how efficiently our application actually interacts with the database?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And the answer, like with most things in software development, is it depends.
Oh, of course.
Right.
It depends.
So Hibernate can be both a performance booster and a potential bottleneck,
Okay.
depending on how you use it.
So it's like with great power comes great responsibility kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the key things to keep in mind is what are called fetching strategies.
Fetching strategies.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you retrieve an entity from the database, Hibernate can either load all the related entities immediately,
Okay.
which is called eager fetching,
Eager fetching. Yeah.
or it can load them on demand only when you actually need them, which is called lazy fetching.
Easy fetching.
So you get these two options.
So eager fetching is kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you order the full meal deal. It comes with all the sides and everything.
Right.
Lazy fetching is more like ordering a la carte.
That's a perfect analogy. Yeah,
You just get what you need in that moment.
exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, choosing the right fetching strategy can have a huge impact on performance.
Damn.
If you're not careful, you can end up loading tons of data that you don't need.
Right.
And that can really slow down your application.
Yeah. And that's where things can really go wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, I can imagine a scenario where you think you're just retrieving this one little object,
Yeah.
but behind the scenes, Hibernate is like loading this whole network of related entities, and then
Yeah.
your application just grinds to a halt.
Yeah, that's a classic Hibernate performance pitfall.
Yeah.
But fear not, there are ways to avoid it.
Okay, good.
You can fine-tune that fetching behavior
Okay.
using annotations and Hibernate configuration
Gotcha.
so that you're only loading the data you need when you need it.
So it's like we've got this toolbox full of all these different fetching strategies, and we just need to know which tool to use for the right job.
Exactly.
Okay.
And mastering those tools is a crucial part of becoming a Hibernate pro.
All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
It's clear that Hibernate mapping is incredibly powerful,
Yes.
but it also requires, careful consideration and a really deep understanding of all these nuances.
Absolutely. It's not just about, sprinkling annotations on your code.
Right.
It's about understanding the implications of those annotations and how they impact the structure and behavior of your data model.
It's about making those informed decisions, right?
Yes.
Knowing when to use eager fetching versus lazy fetching,
Yeah.
when to cascade changes,
Yeah.
how to leverage those bidirectional relationships effectively.
Exactly. It's about thinking strategically about how your data is organized
Right.
and how that organization impacts the performance and maintainability of your application.
And that's the real key takeaway here, right?
Yeah.
Hibernate mapping, it's not just some technical detail.
Right.
It's a fundamental aspect of building robust and efficient and scalable Java applications.
Absolutely. And armed with this knowledge, you can tackle even the most complex data challenges with confidence.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's take a step back and kind of recap some of the key points we've covered today.
Yeah, let's do it. We started off talking about why we even need Hibernate in the first place. It's like that bridge between our Java code and the database.
Right, exactly. That object-oriented world and the relational database world.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the different types of relationships that we can define, like one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many.
Yep, all those different mappings, and we can manage those using annotations.
Yeah, and we even touched on cascading.
Yes.
Making sure that our data stays nice and clean even when things are changing.
Maintaining that data integrity.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about how to set up bidirectional relationships.
Right, so those entities know about each other from both sides.
Exactly.
Very cool stuff.
And of course, we can't forget performance.
Of course not. That's always important.
Always important.
Got to make sure our applications are running smoothly.
Right. Choosing the right fetching strategies
Yes.
can really make a huge difference in how efficient our app is.
Absolutely.
So we covered a ton of stuff.
We did.
Hopefully this has given you a really solid foundation to build on.
Yeah, a good starting point.
But you know what? I think it's time for a little challenge.
Ooh, a challenge. I like it.
Yeah, so imagine that you're tasked with designing the data model for a social media application.
Okay, I can see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Think about all those complex relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Users, profiles, posts, comments, likes, friendships.
The whole web of interconnected data.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
So how would you approach that using Hibernate mapping?
Well, you'd have to think about things like users having a one-to-many relationship to their posts and comments.
Right.
And then you'd have those many-to-many relationships for friendships.
Uh-huh.
And you'd really have to think carefully about cascading behavior.
Yeah, because what happens when a user deletes their account?
Exactly. What happens to all those posts and comments and likes?
It's like a chain reaction.
It is. You got to handle that gracefully.
Right. And then there are other performance considerations, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
How are you going to efficiently retrieve a user's feed
Yeah.
with all that data without bogging down the database?
Right. It's a really interesting problem.
It is.
And it really tests your knowledge of everything we've talked about.
It really does.
But I think that's what makes it so rewarding, right?
It does.
It's like you're building this virtual world piece by piece, connection by connection.
And you're seeing those relationships actually come to life in your code.
Exactly. And Hibernate gives you the power to do that.
It's like building a digital representation of human interaction.
It is. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
So to all of you listening out there,
Yeah.
we challenge you to take what we've learned today and start sketching out that social media data model.
Absolutely. Put your knowledge to the test.
Think about the entities, the relationships, the annotations.
The fetching strategies, the cascading behavior.
Everything.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
You know, make some mistakes. Learn from them.
Yeah, that's how you become a Hibernate master.
Absolutely. Trial and error.
So who knows? Maybe you'll be the one building the next big social media platform.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Using all this knowledge that you gained from our deep dive today.
That's the dream.
So until next time.
Yeah.
Happy coding, everybody.
Keep those keyboards clicking.